Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with me, your most notorious groupie, Alice Rouse, author of this little guy right here. Ooh, the paperback is out, you guys. We know what that means. These other little books, where you can get that, my funny as hell merchandise. Go down in that description, fiddle about, use your fingers, check it all out. Because I do have merchandise like no other groupies do, because I use quotes from my ex-lovers or things that I said. Like I said, it all started with the Steve Jones quote. When I said about Steve Jones, I'm like, I fucked Steve Jones and all I got was his t-shirt. Thank God. So go check it out, you guys. And as always, thank you to everybody for being so awesome, for always being here, for just tuning in, for listening to what I say, for getting through. I mean, just being amazing people. I'm so lucky to meet people like Desiree and Jen, who got this whole started. Jen that got this whole channel started, and just Tina and everybody, and keep in contact with other musicians and Sean and all the amazing people that have brought so much. Every single one of you brought so much joy and happiness into my life day to day to day. So thank you guys so much. I truly appreciate it and love you all so much. So much love and light and thankfulness to you guys. And before we get into today's little topic, I do kind of want to touch on something that a lot of people have asked. That little thing right there. No, I am not married. I'm off the market. But how I choose to be off the market, why I choose to be off the market, I'm not going to say, because some things do need to be left on their own. And we all have. And maybe someday I'll talk about everything in an upcoming episode. I don't keep anything from you guys because I'm a bitch or anything, or I have secrets, but sometimes it just takes a little time to talk about things. So, like I said, not married, off the market. Whatever that means, but okay. And I kind of want to talk about, obviously I'm doing a reading today, but I do want to kind of talk about why I'm doing this reading, because, so many people are like, oh my God, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want this guy. I'm so hell-bent on getting the singer, the guitar player, whatever. It's about the chemistry. So never, ever, ever have expectations, or you may miss some of the biggest, badass, coolest fucking experiences, emotions, friendships, loves, whatever in your life. If you hang on too much to your dogma of an idea of what you want, you're going to miss out on the real fucking awesome stuff, on the real stuff, the good stuff. So don't do that, because we're going to talk about that today. And today we're going to have one of our locals. This is the Cerveza Oscura from Ogden Beer Company. Ogden Brew House, their little town north of us right there. So yeah, we're going to try this dark Cerveza lager. All right, so everybody grab your cervezas. Ooh, kick up your feet. We love that sound. And let's have a little cocktails and rocktails. And sort of a cautionary tale, because like I say, never ignore your gut feeling, because you're going to miss out on the best fucking things in life in general. Not just with rock stars, but just life in general. All right. Cheers, big ears. Oh, very, very good. A light and crisp, like the rich flavor that you get from the dark Cerveza style. If you like, the Dos Equis darker, Negro Modelo, definitely going to like this. If you happen to see it in your neck of the woods, if you're in Salt Lake City, you're at one of the, beer hive or beer bar, or, what do you call it, the Bayou, all the bees. Check it out. Really actually good. I'm going to have another sip real quick. I'll be right back. Okay. So like I said, today we're going to have a little bit of a reading, because a couple days ago was the birthday of someone very unexpected in my life. But I was on the tour for a few days, Andrea and I, it was when I was living in Seattle, 1995. Andrea and I had haphazardly been on the road with Biohazard, Machine Head. Who else was it? Oh, Slayer. We kind of haphazardly, so we had planned to go down to Salt Lake City because we were good friends with the opening band that was on this tour. had spent my last 2 weeks in Salt Lake City with them. So, and nothing happened. Like, I wasn't sleeping with anybody from either of the bands, just hanging out, just having a good time, just enjoying the company, enjoying my friends, enjoying being out on the road. Andrea and I cruising down to we flew down to Salt Lake City, then flew back up to Seattle, where I lived at the time. Had no expectations until all of a sudden, down the hallway, as I was standing by the meet and creep room, some of you know where I'm going, just something, just something was pulling me, something beautiful, sparkly, pink, golden, just lightning and butterflies, like electric butterflies. And it was just, and I just turned and I looked. My whole life changed for 8 years. But, okay, we're going to read about that. Because we're going to talk about when I got together with none other than Vincent Paul. March 11th would have been his birthday. But unfortunately, his heart was a little too big. Couldn't handle the life. But okay, so let me get this all propelled for everything. Let me get my grip on it for starters. Ah! All right, this is March of 1995. Since things have been rough at my house, because, sometimes friendships end, and as much as I love Kristen now, we did have a falling out. Our friendship ended. We went our separate ways for a while. And that's just the way life sometimes needs to go, No harm no foul to anybody else, but this was when things were kind of getting rough between us, so. All right. Since things had been rough at my house, I decided to stay in Andrea's apartment for the duration. I use her stage name in the book, so Onyx is her stage name, but Andrea, because I've posted her, pictures of her, Mikey, Inez, whatever. Anyway, with her permission. I decided to stay at Andrea's apartment for the duration. Her roomies were nice and out of town for spring break for 2 weeks, so we would have some peace and quiet while waiting for our fun to begin again. I had once again disappeared on my roomies, because I did that a lot. Back in the day, I would just disappear. I wouldn't tell anybody. It would be a spur of the moment. I would go home in the middle of the night, pack my bag, be gone. Out on the road, in Bahrain, Dubai, wherever. And I love that, I think that's a huge adventure in life. But okay. All right, I had once again disappeared on my roomies and friendship with Kristen. Maybe it was time we took a break. How could we ever be the same when she had bowed out of the rock and roll caravan while I was still mixed into the band of gypsies? We wouldn't be after this trip. Sad, not only had an era of laughter and debauchery ended down in the Utah mountains, but the friendship that was such a big part of it all was coming to a demise as well. And Kristen has read the book. She has a copy of it that, is signed. Oh, sorry, I keep pushing my thingy back. There we go. So, and she's well aware, and she knows the friendship ended. She's not stupid. We're both adults, but we also roll with the punches of life, and that was part of all the punches of our lives, Things happen. And it was hard for her, I'm sure, being with Dion and watching me still go do the same things we had spent the past decade doing, So it was hard on her, and it was hard on me to lose her to somebody else's side of the fence and gang up on me at the same time. But anyway, that's a whole different ballgame. And in the past, that's forgiven and moved on from. All right, Andrea and I had made it into Salt Lake City in one piece and hurdled the gates to our Backstage La La Land with the usual ease. I had seen Peter Still when we arrived to the same venue we had barely left. He entertained Andrea and I on the bus before we went into the arena to mingle with the rest of the rockers. Tonight was an open field and anyone and thing was possible. Those are the best nights in rock and roll. When you're open, you have no plan and let things just fall into place. We sat on the side of the stage for both Typo and Pantera. Pantera had been filming on the road for their home video, and tonight the cameraman was full of force onto Andrea, my old pal Marie, which we've talked to Marie on here, who had joined us for the festivities, and myself. We danced for the cameraman and teased him with our short skirts that really weren't going to be lifted for all to see, as requested. But all the band saw was hot girls on the side of their stage. They love a good hot girls on the side of their stage, didn't they? The first to make his move was Dimebag Darrell. He sidled over to our gaggle of groupies, toying with us for the video. Raising beer cups and bringing us shots, we whooped about and cheesed it up for the camera. The next to arrive was Bassist Rex. Blech! Fuck you, Rex. Double fuck you, you piece of shit. He gave me his pick in an attempt to flirt and reel me in with his awesome rock star power. I assume from his devoid of any sense at all that this worked on the back lounge Betties he was used to. Not on the self-respecting groupies, darling. Sorry, that face stopped any biting of his hook that he wanted me to do. I did. I stopped, and what that means is I gave him a dirty look. I was just like, I'm like, you think this is really, like, really? Really? I still have that fucking pic, though. Fuck you, Rex. All right. Besides, the face that I gave him stopped any biting of his hook he wanted me to do. I didn't do bug-eyed scruffs with no personalities and less talent. He's so untalented. If it wasn't for Vincent Paul, he would not have a fucking dime. Still, because of Vincent Paul dying, now he has more dimes than he didn't have. All right. Besides, I was not meant to be with Rex. I was meant to be with a little drummer boy stuck behind his kit and straining to look at the action he was missing out on. Only it wasn't going to happen in Salt Lake City. Andrea and I ended up partying with the tour the rest of the evening, but not hooking up with anyone. It was just one of those fun-ass times when the band had to leave town to their next destination, to which we reminded the boys we would also be at. Aha! A very good thing. More than we knew. The nights we spent in Seattle with the tour would be one of the most ebby and flowy fun nights I would have locked into rock and roll. Fun nights I would have locked into a rock and roll foursome. Onyx and I arrived back at her still empty apartment and into the trappings of the phone ringing. We were exhausted from our flight and barely slept enough to make it through another rocking night with the boys. So having to deal with what really lay on the other end of the receiver was just nothing Andrea and I needed to do. But she answered anyway. It was Kristen, wondering if I was alive. Because I would leave phone numbers and stuff, you know. She always had my phone numbers just in case anything happened. So, all right. She was wondering if I was still alive. I took the phone from my friend and assured Kristen I was fine. That we were just on another tour and we were going to be hanging out with them again that night. I didn't know why I did it, but I invited her to join us for old time's sake. She was my longtime friend, part of the Salt Lake City Welcoming Committee, part of the history of my groupie experience. Very many memories, very many laughters, having each other's backs and never fucking floundering. It was just that being roommates tore us apart as it does many close friends in life. But hey, one last shout, eh? She accepted and made plans to meet Onyx and I down there. Oh, did she ever meet us down there? And you know, at the time, I didn't realize, because I was not in the house much, how much was going on between her and Dion. It just wasn't working. And Kristen's not the type to give up easily. But fortunately, going to Seattle, had her meet her now husband. Very incredibly awesome man. Those two are great together. I love them together. And they have a wonderful, wonderful child, Jake. You guys has Jake's fashion blog on Insta if you want to go follow. Andrea and I barely gussied ourselves up, and we were so tired because I was kind of hungover. I wasn't really drinking a whole lot at the time. I didn't really feel like it, but I had smoked so much weed with down in Salt Lake City, and you know, there was an earthquake while we were down there. My mom, it was so cute. My mom, we were staying at my mom's, and when we got back in her guest room, she had folded down the beds and put her Reese's peanut butter cups on each pillow. That was my mom. She was just fucking awesome like that, you know? And then she woke us up the next morning. She's like, oh, there was an earthquake in Seattle yesterday. Or maybe that was the time before when we were down there with Slayer. I think it was because we drove down. That's right. It was the time before. Anyway, my mom. Open door for groupies. Okay. We barely got gussied up and got to Typo's bus at the Seattle Center when I knocked on the door and waited for Peter to answer. One of the roadies, Jeff, opened... Oh, Jeff. Still friends with him. He ended up doing a bunch of backstage. He ended up doing some PORN. That was a backstage bimbo series of some sort. Yeah, check it out. Opened the door for us, and lo and behold, if Kristen wasn't already on the bus and comfying up in the back lounge. Oh, okay then. She was really going on all out with this one last shout. Good on her. Wasn't my place to say anything, because of her boyfriend. However, it wasn't my place to be visiting back lounges for passes either. Andrea and I had already established a solid reputation on this tour, and now we could see the looks changing. One bad girl in the sweet girl bunch could topple an otherwise spectacular band game move. Plus, things had calmed down since the 80s. None of this back lounge stuff was acceptable of a respected group anymore. I began the first step of distancing myself from this as Peter took Andrea and I into the gig while Kristen enjoyed her company. But you know what? Kristen maybe needed a little fun. I would too after fucking living with Dion. I mean, I lived with Dion, but I didn't live with Dion like she did. So I don't blame her, honestly. When I wrote this book, it was, we hadn't really kind of talked a lot. We had just started getting back in touch, hindsight is 2020, and yeah, good on her. Let her go do her fucking thing, you know? But it was still I was still writing how I felt in the moment. This whole book it's not how I felt while I was writing the book. It's how I felt in the moment of what I was writing about. Okay. And Kristen enjoyed her company. I mean, I make no judgments, but I was still full of attention from the house. And I wanted to get away from that. So get away, Andrea and I did. I don't remember the show at all for some reason. And Andrea and Kristen do, but I don't remember the show. I don't remember anything about the show. I remember being probably on the side of the stage as usual, but also on the FOH and probably running amok backstage, going outside to smoke or whatever. And like I said, I hadn't really drank in a while, so I was just smoking weed. Okay. I wasn't big on drinking at the time, so I hadn't imbibed all night long. Well, for about a year at that time, actually. While I still smoked like a champ, I didn't drink often. So as I was standing in the backstage halls after the show talking to roadie Jeff, Peter, and typo guitarist Johnny, I had no idea what lay merely moments away. And you guys, this is what I mean. Always go with your gut, even though it's not your plan for the night. Listen to your gut. Change your plans. I could see him out of the corner of my eye. Rather, feel him. The chemistry was that intense from the get-go. Oh, I'm feeling it now. Like, I just feel this tingles in my spine and if you could see what I was doing with my feet, I'm like, oh, doing little weeds, herkies with my feet. And it really was that intense. Like I said, it was like electric butterflies and gold and sparkly, and just you could feel like the tingle starting to permeate from the right hand side. I talked away, but kept feeling this pull from my right. As he got closer, I couldn't deny him a look anymore. He stopped dead in his tracks and turned as I turned to him and hit him with my cornflower blue eyes and black hair. And this is what he said. This is not me trying to tout my fucking, it's so pretty. But this is just what was said. So don't fucking hate on me for someone else having this opinion that made me feel good. My God, Vinnie Paul exclaimed. You are so fucking pretty. What is your name? Allison, I said. What is yours? I always make rock stars introduce themselves, even if I do know their names. It's proper. It opens the door. You with any of these guys? Vin asked. No, they're just old friends. Good, because you need to come with me. My band is having an after party in our dressing room, and you and your friend are invited, Vin said, acknowledging Andrea. I accepted his invitation because I just couldn't turn him down for some reason. Vin's energy and spirit had me from the get-go. It was just, from that second, we were just kind of in our own little world. Like, it's so rare that happens in any type of life. So if you feel it, you guys, don't deny it. Just go. You may question it for a minute. You may not know what you're up to, but the universe will take care of you. Don't worry. Okay. He needed to go into the meet and creep room. Hold on. He needed to go into the meet and creep room I was standing next to and sign some autographs before our night was to commence. Or did he? Apparently not, because as he walked in the doorway, he looked at me once again and declared my prettiness. Our eyes took each other in and didn't let go. Fuck it. He looked at the meat and creepers, anticipating his other foot through the door. Never did happen. Vin took me by the hand as I grabbed Andrea's and led me away into his charms. Andrea, Vin, and I entered into the dressing room. It was scattered with the rest of Pantera. And it was a who's who, okay, for all my Seattle friends. This is, like I say, a bunch of the really cool shit that happened in Seattle is hidden in other bands' episodes. Everybody, the guys, Jerry, obviously, Mikey Inez from Alice in Chains, Chris Cornell, Kim Thiel, Mark Lanigan, guys from Green Apple Quick Step, from the Melvins. I mean, just everybody and anybody who was anybody. Pearl Jam. Everybody who was anybody was backstage with Pantera because they were just that fucking cool and had the best backstage parties. Like, people would starve themselves drinking for years before they ended up backstage at Pantera. Because Vin was so much like the American version of Lemmy. Just, everybody loved him. Everybody loved the brothers so much because their energy was just so cool and kick back. And let's party back on. Get your pull on. No, I don't know how to. I can't imitate them at all. Okay. All right. As he got closer, here where we are. Where are we? Okay. Vin took me by the hand and I grabbed Andrea's and he led me away to his charms. Andrea, Vin, and I entered the dressing room. It was scattered with the rest of Pantera. The Alice in Chains guys, minus the now reclusive Lane. A couple of Soundgarden members and some local sub-pop musicians. It was like being led into a virtual Seattle music scene superstore. Vin asked what I wanted to drink. When I said soda, he chided me and said that would be as boring as a box of rocks, and he even wrote it on top. He had a Sharpie, and he wrote it on top of one of the trash cans in the Seattle Center in their dressing room. He said, boring as a box of rocks. And Andrea never drank. She just is not a drinker. She quit in her teens. And Andrea's always been sober. She just never drank. And, you know, I like people like that because I'm not that big of a drinker or anything, but that's who I tend to end up dating a lot of times. And then here comes Vincent Paul. Crown Royal Special. All right. He left me alone with my friend long enough to grab me a beer with a sidecar of Crown. Oh, that Crown. Him and that Crown. Whew. The Vegas. When they were on. Oh, that Crown bit me in the ass. Few years later, but it took half the time for Mike Inez, the second bass player in Alice in Chains, to approach my side. He began flirting and feeling me out, but before he could cop that feel, Vincent Paul was back at my side, claiming me out loud. She's with me, Vinnie said, slapping the proverbial collar around my neck. But my friend's not, I said, reaching behind me and grabbing Andrea's hand, interrupting her conversation with the guy from Green Apple Quick Step. I swung her into the open arms of Mikey Inez, where she would get comfortable for years to come. And it's all in a rock and roll foursome was born. And it's kind of cool because when your friend hooks up with one of the guys and you hook up with one of the guys and you're just having so much fun and you just all go out and hang out together, and like guys that may not hang out like together normally after the show, yeah, maybe in the dressing room partying, but will they go out to dinner or Best Cafe in the morning? Will they play golf the next day? Probably not. But, you know, that was kind of more Jerry Cantrell's friendship with Vin. But, so it kind of brought Vin and Mikey and me and Andrea together that night into this little foursome and for years to come because, yeah, it was just what bonded us all together was that night. Mikey, Andrea, Vin, and I floated around together with all the flame and charm of a meteor streaking across the universe. It seemed that we were all that existed, but we weren't. I had completely forgotten about the other person who Andrea and I had in our little rock and roll world. And as plans were made to move from the dressing room party from the arena to the brick, my happy little world was interrupted. First, we had avoided the mass group of fans outside the backstage doors, hoping for a glimpse or more from their favorite rockers. There had to be 50 or so people waiting as Mikey opened the doors out of the building. But Vinnie Paul, being the enigmatic personality he is, quickly defended our world from any invasions. Because you don't want anybody bothering your world. Hey guys, Vin began to the mass of fans. This is my girlfriend of like 8 years. We haven't seen each other for 3 months. I can't sign any autographs tonight because I mean, look at her. We're gonna go fuck. Thank you much. And that's exactly what he said. I wasn't complaining. And with that, the crowd parted like the Red Sea and let our foursome past its grasp. But the eerie part of that statement is that it would be about 8 years Vin and I would cross paths. He had almost predicted the future. Yeah, same here, said Mikey Inez, to no one in particular, as he and Andrea followed us out of the heap of people. And they would be together for the next 8 years. Like, he would hang out with Andrea all the time. And when Lane passed away, they were all living down in L.A. by that point. And Mike stayed with her. Mikey came up and stayed with Andrea while he was at Lane's funeral. So that's the kind of relationships that we had with these guys, you know. But just as we all thought our freedom to Alice in Chains' manager's car was gained, another hurdle at the end of the drive awaited our arrival. It was Kristen. From where I stood, I could see she was stressed. Onyx and I looked at each other and let our boys in on the scenario that was about to unfold. We hesitated going by her long enough for the roadie she was talking to rather animatedly to come and drag me to her. Kristen had apparently lost her keys somewhere in the arena. Fucking great. They were for sure gone since the cleanup crew had undoubtedly swept them up by now. She was hesitant to call her boyfriend to bring the spare key as he would be his usual bitchy self. I don't blame her, though. Plus, she would surely want to brush that mouth of her. Okay, I'm not going to say that. She wanted me to stay and help her find the lost set of keys. Help her find them? She had been on 2 buses, wandering Lord knows where during the show, because I don't remember any of the show. Those keys could be lost in almost any nook and cranny in that big arena on the buses. Besides, the 3 other people of my foursome were getting antsy. And it's just like that sometimes when you're in that kind of little bubble you don't want to burst and you just want to keep floating away like you're in Labyrinth. You know, I'll be there for you as the world falls down. I'm so horrible a singer. Sorry if your dogs are howling. All right. So they had no reason to wait for this shit. And in reality, neither did I. Our friendship was broken. The looks I was getting from even associating with the wild girl of the night was unnerving, to say the least. I made excuses as Vin came to my side, and once again, he saved the evening from interruption. He simply threw me over his shoulder and tossed me into the backseat of the car and said, "Punch it!" to Alice in Chains' manager before we sped into the night and out of one of the most infamous rock and roll friendships in the history of Backstage. It does make me sad. And don't get me wrong, it made me sad that our friendship was ending, you know, because of this douchebag. Not because of anything she and I did, but she was kind of put in the middle of things where she shouldn't have been by him. And I just sort of kept running away and just disappearing because I was just tired of Dion, really. Not Kristen by any means. Okay. I was all by myself now, and tonight was going to be a celebration of my backstage independence. Mike, Andrea, Vin, and I arrived to the brick where Vinnie bought our first round with his mini gold cards. He pulled them out in an effort to impress me. He did. He was like, "Oh, look at my gold American." This is when gold cards were like the thing before platinum and titanium. And he had the top of the line American Express card. So he's like, "Ooh, look." He's like, "This isn't impressing you?" I'm like, "No." No. Your money is not what's impressing me, Vincent Paul. The chemistry is. But okay. I was so not impressed with that. I had wanted to kiss him. We had merely been grade schooling our affections with holding hands and cheeky looks. Now it was time to find out if he was worth the rest of the night's attention. I mean, there were lots of rockers filling the bar that night. I could have walked out of that joint with any one of them, but the chemistry lay with this little cowboy hat wearing rocker. So as he asked where the bathrooms were, I seized the opportunity for some alone time. I led him to the ladies' room, locked the doors behind us. I pulled his Tex ass closer. Actually, that's not what happened. How did I write this? I went to the bathroom by myself. Vince and Paul leaned in, followed me apparently, and kind of pushed the door open. He's like, "Hey, Allison." I was like, and there was another girl in that bathroom. So, but after he was in there, I pulled him into the bathroom. Jesus, oh my God. Because that's what happened. He followed me to the damn bathroom. It happens in the bathrooms a lot of times for me. In my apartment with that lead singer from Blitzbeer who ended up in Monster Magnet, with Frank Arsty from Fate's Warning. I was coming out of the bathroom. This happened. Our first kiss happened in a dirty old bathroom with a brick. That's rock and roll, baby. Wouldn't change it for the world. Okay. Where was I? I locked the doors behind it. I locked the doors after I pulled him in. I pulled his Tex ass closer and felt the tingle as his lips touched mine. Oh yeah. Vinnie Paul was going to be my personal lone star for the rest of his Seattle stay. He slapped me on my ass and took me back to the bar where Andrea and Mikey awaited our return. We drank a few more rounds before Jerry Cantrell, Alice in Chains' famed guitar player, invited us back to the studio to hear the band's latest recording sessions. Off we went, back into the manager's car and through the Seattle streets to Bad Animals Studio. So how cool is that? I was headed into 1995. Alice in Chains, recording that album. Headed into the studio. Like, just fucking awesome. We all rolled out of the car in our best, absolutely fabulous style and wandered into the band's rooms. Mike and Onyx disappeared upstairs so he could hit the bong and get engaged with the poker after cleaning its chambers. He did. Him and Andrea, he gave Andrea an engagement bong poker. I wonder how they poked their bong after that, because she probably still has it. While Vin and I went with Jerry to the mixing board. Vin sat at the producer's chairs and pulled me onto his lap. He showed me the buttons of the board I pretended to not have ever seen before. We were so lost into our own little conversation that neither of us heard Jerry from behind us or the music he was playing. It was Alice in Chains' latest album, In the Raw. This was hearing the music long before anyone else outside the band's camp would. The studio is a magical kingdom full of talent and tension. No muse here but each band member's addiction. Unfortunately, the magic between Vin and I took precedence over whatever Jerry was trying to say. He flailed his arms in an attempt to get Vinnie's attention off his new groupie about town. His tizzy fit failed until I realized that the studio was filled with the sounds of new recordings. Oh, what's this? I wish I would have paid closer attention to the creation that had been playing around me. But none of us knew Lane would be gone in less than a decade. The same year my life would go skiwampus. But I get ahead as usual. I do use that a lot. Andrea and Mike came down from their haven and decided to come back to the hotel with Vin and I. We all piled into a cab with Jerry, maybe, and tooled to the Four Seasons where the Pantera, I don't know how, I can't remember if it was a cab or if it was the manager's car. But anyway, we piled into a cab and tooled to the Four Seasons where the Pantera crowd were laying their heads for the next couple days. I entered Vinnie's suite along with Mike, Andrea, Dime, the Green Apple Quick Step Book guy, Vin's drum tech cat, Kim Thayil was there. I do believe Jerry was there. Couple other roadies besides Kat, Vin's drum tech. There was like 10 people in the room besides Vin and I. There was a private thing going on at Kim Thayil's house. He was a guitarist for Soundgarden and the coolest rocker on the scene at the moment. But the little world I was in at the moment beat his aura. Hands down. I sat on Vin's lap in the lounge area of the room. He toyed with me that his mama would not approve of him having a strange girl stay the night. Vincent Paul, he said his mama would start. You can't be seducing strange girls. Well then, tell your mama that I was the one that seduced you, Vincent Paul. I thought the use of his full first name and middle name his mama scolded him with was so sweet. He said only his mama called him that. So just as he slapped the collar on me earlier, I slapped one on him that would last much longer and go deeper than his. I told him I would call him Vincent Paul from that day forward until the day I died. Years later, after hearing his sweet mother passed suddenly from cancer, he would find it comforting that I did. It would be the bond that held me close to him for years to come. The fact that he let me call him by such an intimate name. And with that, a chemistry that would last beyond the night was discovered. Sorry, it makes me cry. Sorry, guys. Vin and I just had a natural and light rapport. So before the rest of the crowd even left the room, a snogging Vincent Paul and I disappeared into the bedroom of the suite. Apparently, I slammed the door behind out of my eager and horny ass. I did, because there was like the slatted doors, like the have the slat, like I call them the tropical doors. So it was like that. They were slatted, and I could hear Andrea and Mikey in the living room of the suite going, "Okay, then. I guess they're not coming to Kim's house." Nope. By the time she said Kim's house, Vin's in my mouth. All right. I woke up the next morning nestled in the nook of Vincent Paul's arms. We had some breakfast and exchanged numbers. Vin gave me his pager number. Yeah, a cool-ass sky pager that could reach you anywhere in the world. Do you guys remember the pagers and the sky pagers? Oh, heck yeah. Any roadie, rock and roll roadie? Tell me. Tell me what yours was, what your favorite code to be paged with was. Okay. Technology was heading global, and this was a privilege to have such a number that would go directly to a rocker. Score! Now, to get back to Andrea's apartment and crash for a little while, I kissed Vincent Paul goodbye for the while before wandering down the daylit streets of my city. I didn't get why they called it the Emerald City. It all looked gray and dank from the streets. I kept my head down and wandered through the Pike Street Market sidewalks without incident. That is, until I hit a side street that cut to the apartment I was aiming for. And guess who I ran into? Yeah, Jerry Cantrell, and Allison Chain's manager, who had definitely seen me the night before and would know I was still wearing the same clothes. I don't hate walk of shames. I love a good walk of strut of shame. We strut that shame. Woohoo! Holy shit! This was the ultimate walk of shame, and to avoid it, I ducked into a storefront long enough to not be noticed and into Andrea's apartments 10 minutes after Mike Inez had left. She and I regaled the night before as we ate cereal and stared at the Alice in Chains and Pantera posters in her roommate's bedroom. The phone rang. Onyx and I looked pensively at each other. Just as last night, we were not going to let anything disturb our world. I turned down the volume, knowing it could have been Kristen. I didn't care who it was. All I wanted was out of that house, and the universe was about to take care of that for me. But there's always a catch when you let the universe take the reins, and mine was in the form of an undercover bust in my little hole-in-the-wall strip club. There you go. And not for anything bad. Oh my God, you've read the book, you guys know. In Seattle at the time, you could only do totally nude on stage. You had to keep your bikini on. Off stage, you couldn't flash. I flashed and got in trouble for it. But nothing ever came of it. But there you guys go. This is why I say all the time to not be so hell-bent on forcing situations that you have pre-planned in your head. Because, I mean, if I hadn't been with Vin that night, if I had, been like, oh, he's not my type, he's short, he's Texas, he's only 8 years older than me, I like men 20 years older than me, English, whatever, right? And I was just like, oh, he's just so not my type, but Yeah, he was. And I was the first girl he dated that wasn't some bleach blonde boob job Texas fucking bimbo, right? So if either of us had not listened to our instincts that night, we would not have 8 years of what we had. I would not have gone into the studio with Andrea, that night and later on with Andrea and Mikey, and listening to that album while it was being made. Because, I mean, that's something pretty cool that is very rare that not a lot of people get to do. So to go into the studio, and ladies, tell me about your experiences in the studio down in the comments, because like I said, it's something really cool where the music is actually happening. It's just happening and being recorded for everybody else to hear later. So, and I wouldn't have traveled with Vin. I wouldn't have had the love that I feel for Vin. I wouldn't have had the fights I had with Vin that ended our long time. He wouldn't have been hurt by me being with John when he died. We wouldn't have had everything that was real. And, that's the whole point of the groupie rock and roll experience. It's not about starfuckers, which we're going to get onto that next episode or two. Talk about starfuckers. I mean, there just wouldn't have been all these amazing real experiences I had with him, hanging out with him at home, you know, just being there when we sat at the 21 table a year after his mom died with one of his mini security guards, Chris, wedged in between us. And I called him Vincent Paul, and Chris scolded me for that's only his mother calls him that. His mother just died, and Vince stopped him. He's like, no, she can't. It's comforting. I wouldn't have ever had that moment. I wouldn't have had sitting in that, my friend Andrea, I don't know if I would have introduced her to Mike Inez. We might have just, kind of wandered around, left, gone home, called it a night. But I listened to that instinct. I listened to that when your gut, when your butterflies, when the universe, your guardian angels, the goddesses, God, whatever you believe in, is telling you to pay fucking attention. Pay fucking attention to what's happening on the right and the left and everywhere in between and above you and below you, because you never know where that feeling is going to take you. And I'm so glad that we both broke our own barriers. Vincent Paul and I both broke our barriers for each other that night, because like I said, I loved that man. I still love that man. I will always have a love for that man that is like no other. Maybe it's not conventional that, oh, we were supposed to get married and be soulmates and, watch football and have great Super Bowl parties and, be ostentatious with our gold cards around the world. No, it was something beyond that was just natural. I could call anywhere in the world and say, hey, give me Troy Aikman's room. And they would ring Vincent Paul, because that's what he used to stay under. And I'm so glad Andrea got to be friends with Mikey for that long, because like I said, it was just kismet and magic, and you should always let that happen. All right, and I'm babbling on, and this is a long enough episode, so sorry you guys that it is pretty long, but like I said, I mean, pay attention to the chemistry. Don't be hell-bent on what's going on in your mind. Let it go. Let it be free. That's rock and roll. And thank you to everybody who got through the episode. Like I said, I know it's a long one. I know we've talked about Vinnie millions of times. We've heard the story before. A lot of new people haven't, but there we go. There it is. I love a good rock and roll rock and roll surprise. So, all right. It is always, again, thank you to everybody who made it through the episode with me, who is just really badass, who's doing the comments, who's supporting this channel, whether I see you, whether we have talk, whether you're in the comments or just quietly watching from the comfort of your own home or work or wherever you're just taking a break and watching me. Thank you guys so, so much for really, truly just making this channel everything to me and making this family something really badass where we can all coexist and not give a fuck about what's going on in the rest of the world, because that's what concert and music and everything is about. So thank you for the family that we have here. We are so lucky, and it is such a rarity. Truly. Thank you. And for you guys just hanging out and all the new people, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Become part of this amazing family. Feel free to have conversations. Feel free, not just with me, but with everybody. Everybody here is cool. We're happy to talk. We're happy to have conversations and healthy debates about rock stars, rock and roll, anything music, your experiences. questions of what you want if you're just starting out in the rock world, you're just kind of discovering the groupie world. We are all about talking and hanging out here and, being part of this family. So feel free. Don't be afraid. And hit the subscribe, hit the bell, hit the share, you guys. Get us out here. Oh, yeah, hit my bells. And we'll see you next time on Cocktails Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.